got it. All right. So again, thank you. Welcome to Avon Grove Charter School High School's graduation pathways presentation. I'm going to allow our school counselors now to take over from here.
All right, thanks, Mr. Messick. I'm gonna share my screen here with our presentation. For those of you that don't know, I'm Megan Alexson. I'm the 11th and 12th grade school counselor. A lot of you I met in previous years as I was the 7th and 8th grade school counselor. So I know a lot of you. Get this shared here. And then move all this stuff out of the way. So tonight we're going to be talking about the graduation project pathways. There's 3 pathways that are available, and just so you all know, Ms. Heaps, myself, and Mr. Messick did basically the same exact presentation for the 10th graders and for the 11th graders a couple of weeks ago. So they have all of this information. Hopefully they've maybe begun talking to you about it at home. But we will dive right in. So just an overview of our graduation requirements. So all of this is available to you in the program of studies if you have questions specific to like the general graduation requirements, since we're focusing just on one piece tonight. There also was a presentation that Mr. Bruto did, I believe back in February, that's on our website as well, that really dives into all of these graduation requirements and our program of studies. So if you have questions about that, those are some good resources available to you. So kind of our overall graduation requirements, we have that minimum of 23 credits that students earn by successfully completing courses. Those credits are then broken down into categories. Again, that's something that you can see spelled out for you in the program of studies. The second part is that students are proficient or advanced on the 3 keystone exams. So that's one in bio, algebra, and literature. Or if not, that they complete an alternative pathway. For those junior parents that are on this evening, you would have just received some communication a couple of weeks ago if your child was on an alternative pathway and what that might look like for your child. But certainly happy, reach out to me if you have questions or concerns about that. Another piece is that your child's completing college and career readiness artifacts. These are things that they complete primarily in Rally, and they're meant to really explore, themselves. So they take, some personality inventories. They might do some college and career exploration activities and what kind of jobs suit my personality. They also do very concrete things like resume building and writing cover letters. So there's a minimum of 8 required artifacts or like pieces of evidence that go into a culminating portfolio. So those are things that they complete during Rally. And the final piece, which we're going to focus on tonight, is the work-based learning project. So the work-based learning project is part of that culminating portfolio that I just mentioned. And obviously, I'm a school counselor, so I love this idea of like helping kids have meaningful after high school planning experiences. And I really think that with this project, at least my hope is that it doesn't feel like another thing for kids to do, because I really think if kids put time and effort into thinking about exposure to work experiences that they're interested in or think that they're interested in, I really think that this project can help them make an informed decision about what they want to do after high school, or maybe even cross some things off the list that they thought they liked that they really don't. So, I think like Mr. Messick mentioned, some of those seniors that kind of waited till the last minute, maybe this project hasn't felt as meaningful for them and it's felt more stressful. But what I can tell you is our kids that put time and research into finding jobs and careers that they wanted to learn more about, that they were interested in, I think this project has brought them a more informed approach about what they want to do after high school. So I'm pretty excited about it personally. So there's 3 options. They can do a service learning project or a job shadow or an internship. Ms. Heaps and I are going to dive into what each of those will look like for your child. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is our internship experience. So this is really intense career exploration in one field or one particular job. Because students are spending 60 hours in one job or one location, there are some requirements around this that you're not going to see with the other pathways. So students have to be a junior or a senior. So they've earned 11 and a half credits. That's a minimum. So for you sophomore parents that are on tonight, that's when that kind of credit rollover happens, would be like July of 2024. So potentially, if your child wanted to do this internship opportunity, it's something that they could start this summer. For junior parents that are on, if your child's thinking about this option because of the 60-hour commitment, it's something I would definitely encourage them to get a start on this summer. And again, because we're sending our students out into the world of work with that kind of 60-hour expectation, there are some discipline expectations that we have in place as well. Students are responsible for finding their own internship locations. We do have some companies and some people that have worked with us in the past. So, please have your kid reach out to us. We're happy to help as we are able. I know teachers have always said, please ask me. I know people out in the world of work. We're certainly willing to help, but as far as reaching out and securing that internship location, that is the responsibility of the student. It's also part of the learning process of the project. So kind of breaking down those requirements for the internship, it's 60 hours. There's also a professionalism course that they complete in Schoology. There's some pre-work that they do, getting ready for their internship, talks about, just being professional in the world of work. What do I do if I need to call out? What do I wear to work? All of those kinds of things. They'll have to keep track of their time. This is all done in Schoology. They will also have to complete 3 separate journal entries at various parts of their internship. So there's one at 15 hours, there's one at 30 hours, and then there's one at 45. And that just shows us that they're reflecting throughout this process of the internship. They will do an oral presentation. This year, our students did those in Rally, so they were presented to their Rally teacher and their peers. And peers were able to learn about some other jobs and careers that were out there and ask some questions. And there is a rubric by which that presentation is graded. If students successfully complete the hours and then they pass the coursework in the Schoology course, they do receive an elective credit, which counts towards their total graduation credit requirements. So I think that the internship opportunity is a really good chance to deeply explore a career that your child may be interested in. So I'm going to have Miss Heaps is going to talk a little bit about job shadow experiences.
All right, thanks, Mrs. Alexson. So the second option that students have to choose from is a job shadowing and community service option. And what this option consists of would be 3 separate job shadowing experiences, and they have to be at least 3 hours each. So we're looking for a total of at least 9 hours amongst the 3 experiences. Students are permitted to complete job shadowing experiences within the same career field or cluster, but they have to be completed with different people. So they cannot complete 3 experiences with the same individual. Another stipulation of the job shadow is that they cannot be completed with a parent or a guardian or family member. That being said, if your child is really interested in the career field that you work in, we would encourage you to connect with a colleague or a coworker to maybe make that connection and allow them to shadow somebody that does work in that career field. After each job shadowing experience, students are required to complete a 5-paragraph reflection, and this reflection should, tie back to how this job shadow aligned with their career goals and what they learned from that experience. Students are required to identify their own job shadowing experience. So this is similar to the internship. We do expect students to kind of arrange and set up these job shadowing experiences. For any verified job shadowing experiences conducted during the school day, we would count that as an excused absence. And the way that we would do that would be having a verification form that's completed by the employer. This is the experience verification for attendance form, and it would need to be signed and submitted to our attendance office within 3 days of the job shadowing experience. Some other pieces that the students need to do for this option would be to complete the verification form and be uploaded to Naviance. That's for us to see that this job shadowing experience was completed. And for reflections, each experienced students will write the reflection and upload that to Naviance as well. So in addition to the job shadowing experiences, the other portion of this pathway would be community service. And this is kind of your typical community service volunteer hours. Students have to complete 20 community service hours for this pathway. And these hours can be acquired either through school-based opportunities or opportunities out in the community that the students set up. Summer hours can count. So summer is a really great time for students to get some of that community service done. As long as they are documenting it properly, we can accept those summer hours. Court-mandated community service cannot be used towards this requirement, so that's just something to keep in mind. Acceptance of documentations in regard to service hours is at the discretion of administration, and hours can be rejected if proper paperwork is not submitted for all the required hours and with required signatures. So basically what that means is if we don't have the proper documentation of the community service hours, those hours could potentially be rejected. So it's really important that when your students are going out into the community and doing these community service hours, that they're filling out the appropriate paperwork and having it signed by the person that's supervising them. Students may not receive compensation for any community service hours. And the AGCS community service documentation forms can all be obtained through our website. All right. Option 3, this is the third and last option for the work-based pathways, is a service learning project. This is a 60-hour focused project that focuses on students giving back to the community in some way. So one of the examples we often kind of share with students is if, let's say, you are going for your Eagle Scout and doing an Eagle Scout project, that kind of very closely aligns with our service learning project. So as I said, this is a 60-hour project. That 60 hours would include planning, preparation, implementation, your reflection, your presentation at the end. So it's 60 total hours across the whole process. In order to do the service learning project, students have to complete a service learning proposal form first. So that can be submitted to myself or Mrs. Alexson, and all service projects must be approved before students start. So if this is something that your child thinks they might be interested in, maybe they're thinking about doing this over the summer, we would highly suggest that they start working on their proposal forms and start submitting those to us before they leave for the summer. The cool part about the service learning project, this is the only option that allows students to work in teams, not to exceed 3 students, and they can collaborate and work together on the project proposal. Students are required to track their own service learning hours. So there is a service learning activity log where students would go in and submit what hours they completed and what tasks were completed during that time. And each student is responsible for a reflection paper that focuses on their proposal, what they learned, and how this aligns to their future goals. Students are responsible for also completing a visual product or an oral presentation, which they would share with their rally groups and rally teachers. There is a rubric that is used for the scoring of this presentation. And the hope is that presentations are scheduled in the spring of senior year. So by latest, students should be scheduling their presentations in the spring of senior year, with the hope that final papers and presentations are due in about March of senior year. The last part is that the service learning project can be, if students complete this and receive a passing grade, they can receive 1 non-replacement credit on their transcript. This is not a weighted credit, but it is added to the final transcript after graduation. So what that means is this would not replace an elective credit or a required credit on their transcript, but it would be in addition to what they have completed in regards to their other requirements. All right, this is just a snapshot of what the students see on Schoology. So all of the information about these 3 pathways can be found in the students' class of pages. So if they log into Schoology and they go to their class of pages, they can click on the resources tab and then the graduation project information folder. And then they'll see these 3 folders in there with the documents that they would need for each of those pathways. For the internship, all of the work is being submitted through Schoology. So as Mrs. Alexson explained, any of the journal entries that they need to complete, the professionalism course, all of that's going to be submitted through Schoology. For our job shadowing community service and our service learning project, all of those documents will be uploaded through Naviance.
All right, so that's our 3 projects. So for those of you that are parents of juniors, current 11th graders, this is kind of your what's next. And this really shouldn't come as surprising news to your student. This is things that we have talked about when I've pushed into Mr. Hashagen's history class, and it's also stuff that we're talking about when I'm meeting with them one-on-one in their junior meeting. So they should be thinking about deciding on a pathway. So towards the end of May, they'll do a rally activity where they're going to fill out a Google form, letting myself, Mr. Messick, and the rally teachers know what pathway at this point they're committing to. Not that we can't pivot if we need to in our senior year, but I think that it takes a lot of stress off the table for senior year if we're deciding on something now in junior year and getting a lot of that work done over the summer and into the fall of our senior year. So if your junior hasn't already, I'd start thinking about maybe some internship opportunities or job shadow experiences that they would like to have, or if they're interested in doing a service learning project, what that might look like. We are asking that for juniors, that the last day to submit a service learning proposal is May 31st. So we really want to have those proposals to us, read and approved, and back to your student before they go on break. That way, because these service learning projects in particular can be really time consuming, they have that time and effort to put in towards a really good project. And the next and final step is that they're drafting a professional email that they might use to reach out to these job shadow contacts or potential internship contacts that maybe they're thinking about if they have to make a phone call and call someone. You know, what am I going to say when someone answers the phone, or what kind of voicemail am I going to leave as well? So for juniors, that's really where you guys are at, is I'm making a decision and I'm kind of starting those first action steps of research towards whichever pathway you choose.
Right, and for sophomores, this is really the time to start thinking about what kind of pathway they would be interested in. Brainstorming either internship, job shadow, or service learning. The nice part about our job shadowing experience and community service hours is those can be started now. We don't have to wait. There isn't a grade level requirement to start the job shadowing and community service. So if your student thinks that that's the option that they're interested in, we really would encourage them to start it early. And then the last piece, if you are planning on starting an internship or a service learning project in the summer, July of this coming summer, 2024, to please contact myself or Mrs. Alexson so that we're aware of that and can get the appropriate paperwork started.
All right, I can go through some of the questions that have come up. But even before that, I just want to point out, I always like to be honest, and I like to be honest with the kids. And I truly agree with what Miss Alexson said, that the kids are going to get out of this what they put into it. We do know there's some students that had very good experiences with all three pathways. But I also know how kids think, and I was honest to them. I said, if you're looking to just check the box and do the easiest thing, job shadowing is probably the least stressful of all of them. It's the least time commitment. It's probably the least amount of work. You're looking at verification of a job shadowing, you're looking at a reflection, and you're looking at 20 hours of community service. So that is usually the least pressure one. Probably the most amount of work is going to be your service learning project. We've kind of advised, we have students that are Boy Scouts and they're doing their Eagle Scout project. Nothing that says that's a great opportunity. If you're already doing your Eagle Scout, it can count towards that as well. And then the other one, though, is the one that I really try to push on students is the internship. I know what the cost of college is right now, and it's going to keep climbing up. And we already know how many students will switch, won't switch colleges, but definitely switch majors after they start school, and how helpful it would be to actually experience a job prior to making that decision. I know right now we have a current senior who was planning on doing things kind of like social media for companies. He experienced that in the internship, absolutely hated it, and now has made a decision in terms of college to be able to go and make a better decision. So I just wanted to say is that just as you're thinking about it, those are some things come up. Questions that popped up, and I see some more coming through. Keystones, there are just the 3 keystones. Regardless, if you passed all 3 keystones, you may have already hit your pathway for Pennsylvania by passing all 3 things, but we also have board policy. So no matter what, all students do have to do one of these pathways. The beauty of it is if you don't hit one of those keystone pathways, if you don't pass all 3 keystones or get the cut scores, these pathways already put you right on pace for what Pennsylvania requirements are. So that's why it's great that we start working very early with the students on this. Passing score for internships. I have never experienced anyone that did all of their work that did not get a passing score for internship. I just looked at the grade books for it. Pretty much it is, we do grade them. We'll check and see if a response is not a strong response and someone just try to get away with putting very minimal into it, they might not get a high score for that one part. But pretty much it is very much, are you checking the boxes? Have you done all the parts? If you do that, you will get your passing score. I've not experienced it yet. And every presentation I've gotten from kids is, you can see that at the end, they definitely put some work and learned some things from that internship. So we haven't had any negative experiences in that way. Community service for everyone. No, that is no longer a requirement for everyone. It is only for if you're choosing that job shadowing experience. Community service documentation, I'll turn to my counselors, I believe that's all in Naviance, that form.
So the form as of right now is still available on the website, as well as outside of my office in our little counselor wing. And we're up, once the form has been signed and completed, we're having the students upload it into Naviance. Yep.
Next was up, let me just make sure. Presentation for job shadow and community service. There is no presentation for job shadow and community service. Again, like I said, it's definitely the easiest of all of them. And then let me see if I got some other questions coming in here.
I will say too, Mr. Messick, if you don't
Okay.
mind if I jump in, my guidance to some of the juniors has been that the job shadowing is a great idea if you're feeling really unsure, like you're between two or three different things. Like it's a great opportunity to experience some different jobs if you don't have that, like, I'm committed to this one field as far as the internship experience goes.
And I would recommend, even though it wouldn't really do much for your graduation purposes, for some students, do the job shadowing early and decide to do the internship later. You can still always get the credit for the internship regardless of it being a pathway. We did the internship before the pathways was even there. Um, Jan, I think I answered your question. I know you followed up with volunteer hours. All of that, there is volunteer community service. There is no requirement for all of our students. Now, if any students are in different groups, there are requirements for that. For instance, if you're part of the Leo Club or the Honor Society, National Honor Society, those are added expectations as part of those groups. The volunteer hours, community service hours are just for the job shadowing. I will say is, again, they have to be appropriate community service. I had a senior there today said he was going to do yard work for his uncle. Said that's not community service. That's helping your family. So understand that there is that difference. Going my way down here. I think I answered that. The question is, can they shadow a job that requires a PhD? Yes, go for it. Any kind of job works. Just try to have the students think about jobs they actually want. It's kind of one of the reasons too we say they're not to shadow their parents is most times they know what their parents do. They hear the parents talk about the jobs. That's not really exposing them to something new. With that said, it doesn't mean that their parents can't set them up with someone else they work with. Um, we gave an example that you could work in the medical field possibly, and you could be, a nurse at the medical field. You might be able to set them up with someone else in the hospital. That's something that they're interested in. So it's just that they shouldn't be just shadowing you. Um, Let me see. Would taking the kid to a trial or other court proceedings meet the no taking them? So the question is, would taking them to trial or court proceedings meet the job requirement? They would have to be paired up with someone that is working that job. So if for some reason they were working with a judge and the judge allowed them, fine. If they were working with an attorney and the attorney allowed them and they actually shadowed and got to experience it and be able to kind of talk to that person they needed to, that would count. Just going on its own would not count. Is this project something that can go on a college application? I'll let Miss Allison.
I would say definitely the internship experience. I have a lot of my seniors that included their internship experience on kind of that resume portion of their college app. And I think it certainly isn't going to hurt that you've had, especially at that 60-hour committed on the job experience. So the service learning project for sure, I think is also something that I would encourage juniors, seniors applying to college to highlight. The job shadow, you can highlight it, but I don't know that that's going to be as impactful as the other two.
And then I got this as a direct message. I think that answered the next part you kind of asked that is there one that's better? And you just answered that one. Next one is, can community service for NHS be used for this project too, or does it have to be separate hours? Yeah. Yeah, you shook your head. I was gonna say the same thing. Yeah, there is no restriction on these community service hours. So if they're doing it for something else, that is fine. They just have to log it, and yeah, log it with us. Did I understand correctly? All students have to complete one of these options to graduate, even if they pass the Keystones or a different pathway from the state. That is correct. Every student needs to have a pathway for us. We do have a few students that are part of TCHS. They would be the exception, but that's because they're meeting their pathway through TCHS. But that's a very small amount of students. And again, this is the presentation you just got was our board policy that we have to follow. And again, the benefit is it matches what the pathways are for the state in both ways. Can community service at a parent's job count, for example, helping to clean out of school? If it is truly a community service type activity, yes. It just usually it has to be signed off on people, but yes. So like if you were, again, if you work at a school and they're going to come in and go around and clean up all the trash, that is helping out their community. So that would count. Again, community service to go, just do your neighbor's lawn, That's not community service. Being part of an organization that goes and does it at places of need, that would count. And if there's ever questions like that and a kid really needs to come, they can always come to us and we can give them guidance. We also do share plenty of opportunities. I've sent it out to 9th, 10th, and 11th graders about some opportunities that I even have available that they could join. And I know some other people do too, where we're all part of different community organizations where things pop up. Hold on. No, out. Sorry. Child coming in to visit. The beauty of Zoom. Um, I think we answered more questions. We'll still open up. If there's more questions, keep popping them in. I will say, so going back to that internship, is when a student goes, if they're not sure how to go to a business, definitely have them talk to us. It is a skill to build, but if you go to a company and you go, hey, my son or daughter is going to intern, can they intern here? It scares businesses because they think college interns or someone who's fresh out of college intern, and they think it's that. That is not necessarily what it is. It is really an extended job shadow. Some businesses will let them do things, and that's great. But some businesses will just say you're just watching. And that really comes down to what that business is. The hardest place for all of these is going to be in the medical field. And that's mostly because of HIPAA. So it gets real difficult. We try to set up internships, with doctors. Some will allow it, but again, just because of their patient confidentiality, that is usually the one is the most difficult. So what we usually try to talk to students about is try to find something in a related field. Not that it's exactly the same, but if you're really looking in the medical field and you can't get something, is possibly checking out whether you can go to, a vet. And at least you can see a little bit and work with a doctor, or even it's still medical field, but it's a little bit different. Is I know we do people that were able to work go to like a dentist office or an orthodontist. That's a little bit different than working at an ER. And I know Miss Heaps or Miss Alson said it. Students are allowed to be paid for interns. I fully recommend students to do it during the summer. They can do it during the school year, and we can help support sometimes. But if they do it during the summer, getting 60 hours is a lot easier than doing it during the school year. But if they do it during the school year and there's like a day of a special event, I know we've had some students that worked with realtors, and the realtor was like, "I'd really like to see allow them to see a closing. Sorry, I don't say my G's all the time. That we said we allowed them to miss the day of school to go see that event because that was an experience for them that was worthwhile. Yeah, so the question is, do we have a written information letter flyer for internships that we can use? Yes, we do. We have a couple. Best thing is if you email us or even Mr. Miller, I have him house a lot of them. He's actually got folders with a lot of handouts in it. So besides the digital version, we could actually give you a folder with an information letter as well as contact information for us that they can get. We also do try to do each summer. It just depends if businesses are working and we'll know to do it and whatever's going on at our school. We try to have like a businesses we welcome in to teach them about our internships. We didn't get to do it this past summer, but the summer before we did, and we actually invited some students to come so they could meet right away, and that helped them find some internships. We're hoping to do that again. Again, and keep typing them, that's fine, but I believe we got all of the questions. I kind of wrote them down as I was answering them in the chat. All right. Yes, internships can be paid. And I truly recommend it. Like if you're able to get it, that's great. Students can actually do internships at jobs they work right now. They might be doing some of a job, but then they decide to, I want to see like what my boss does. So while they're working, they will also kind of shadow their boss at the same time, and kind of knock out two birds with one stone. I will say the internship, I've talked to many kids, their experiences that they're getting out of the internships, it's exactly what you want them to get. School is school, where you're being forced to do things, but it changes a little bit when you have to go do a job and learn what happens and how you have to work, how you have to dress. We've had a lot of seniors right now that have had very positive experiences. And even times where there was negative experiences, they've had positive growth because of it. It's probably the most valuable out of these three. Not taken away from service learning, because it is amazing to do that, but for their own personal growth in terms of career base. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'll hang out for a little bit, but I'm gonna stop the recording now. It sounds like someone just fell, but I'm gonna stop the recording and I'll see if I can